Welcome back, everybody. This is Annette Hines, and I'm on a different forum venue today. We have been trialing doing these recordings of the podcast episodes inside our circle of care, which I've been telling you all about forever, but I'm going to tell you about it some more. And inside that circle of care, we have a unique opportunity to go ahead and record an episode, but also then close out the recording and do some Q&A with our membership. Another reason for everybody to join. So this topic I am super excited about. I have Beatrice here with me, and she has a unique design approach. And I'm fascinated by that because I'm a neurodiverse person, and I certainly had this experience with both my girls in our family. So without further ado, let me tell you that Beatrice is a mom of 3 very active boys, she says, and she lives in New Jersey with her husband and kids, but she grew up in Montreal, Canada. That must have been fun. I've spent a lot of time in Montreal because I went to school in Vermont, so we drove back and forth a lot. And she's always been creative, and then she became an interior designer, and she knew that she wanted to do a different kind of unique design, but she wasn't sure what. Her middle son was born early. She'll tell you a little bit more about that. And then because he wasn't sleeping well and had a lot of energy and he was struggling socially and academically, then he eventually got diagnosed with ADHD and sensory processing disorder, which is very interesting to me because, again, my girls, right? So she knew that she needed to do something extra to help him thrive. And then I'm going to let her tell you the rest. So Beatrice, take it from there. Welcome to the show. Please tell us a little bit more about your background and, how you got to this place.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. And it's my mission to spread my knowledge and everything that I know about what I do now, because it helps so many families and children and adults also. So with my son, you wanted me to start with my son, right?
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that story. I didn't want to go into too much detail. That's your story to tell.
So he was born early. He was born at 36 weeks. I had an emergency delivery. And it kind of started from there, where I was kind of watching him, and he was a really good baby, and he was sleeping and he was happy, but he wasn't a good sleeper. We couldn't sleep train him. And then we put him in early intervention and things were just not clicking. And then over time, I started to notice that, he's very hyperactive, and we had him in occupational therapy and physical therapy and everything. And I don't know, there was just something missing. And then I approached his child study teams, the occupational therapists and physical therapists, and I said, can colors and patterns and lighting, can that affect a child? And they said, absolutely. And so I decided to just dive into, they said, well, he has sensory processing disorder. And so that's when I decided to dive in and just read everything and anything I could. And I just bought books and books. And, usually, like, if it's something that's foreign to you, then it feels like, all right, I don't really understand this, but it just kind of captured me, and and it made so much sense.
Yeah.
I have a background in psychology, so to me, it made so much sense about how children with sensory processing disorder, they feel things in a different way. They feel more. They're sensitive to lighting. They're sensitive to certain colors or patterns or a combination of things. And so it's possible that they'll walk into a space and just not feel comfortable, but not know that they're not feeling comfortable, and they won't know how to say it, how to communicate it. once I start the project, I create, design boards and a 2D layout, a 2D
Mm.
layout, but I also take it to the next level and I create a 3D rendering that's a realistic rendering. And that way people are able to visualize the space because most people are visual. And if I'm going to throw, here's this fabric with this, with this, with that, they'll just feel overwhelmed. And so in order to not overwhelm them, I take them through steps. Here's the design board. Here's a 2D layout. And this is what it could look like.
And you're including the disabled person in these conversations and in trying things out.
But I don't refer to it as a disabled person. I just decorate for the family or the child or the person from what I feel would go.
Okay.
So it's
we're
not like an accommodation design.
right, right.
It's to help the family dynamic. It's to help the child have a calm space in their room. It's to have the children have an active sensory gym in the basement. It's for the parents to have an adult space that's separate from the kids, because I believe that there's a separate adult space from a child space. You don't want to be watching television at night, looking at the mess of toys in the corner and saying, I cannot disconnect from this. There's such a mess.
Yeah.
So I just look at the design from like a psychological perspective.
I love that you think about every person in the family just as an individual family member that needs to be attended to or paid attention to. In our world, we're always talking about person-centered planning and including our person in all of the decisions that we're making as a unit, right? And so I just see this as an extension, right, of a person-centered plan. We all made that mistake at first where we went out and designed our kids' rooms with what we like and not necessarily what they like. And to a certain extent, I still do it, right?
Right.
But I keep trying to learn from my mistakes or from my missteps, not necessarily mistakes, but missteps. So I keep trying to learn and get better. And I'm just in love with how your approach really is considerate of everybody and what they need.
Yeah, thank you. It's very meaningful to be able to
Yeah.
help like that. And then you get to know about people. You get to know their what they're feeling. It's not just a space. It's their
What is that one thing that's happening that we're feeling in our gut, that lets us know that we should maybe start an aesthetic or sensory design in our spaces? Like, what's that one thing that we should really be paying attention to?
just watch the family dynamic. Just watch what goes on. We all have a sixth sense. Like we know in our gut that there's just something off. If you have a child that's hyperactive, that's jumping on your couches and using your living room as a jungle gym, you know that they have this extra energy and that they need to let it out somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
you know? But you have this gut feeling about the space not feeling right. And I would just say, just trust yourself. But kids and adults need to have an appropriate space, if that makes sense. And so if your children don't feel calm, you need to have a calm space for them. If they're not sleeping well, you need to create a environment that's soothing for them to be able to sleep better. Not saying that medication doesn't play a part, but environment also. I feel that it's not just one or the other, it's a combination. So,